Last but no means least, we have Activities Officer. The Activities Officer is responsible for the management and development of all RUSU sports clubs and societies, RAG, which is Raising Giving, student media and volunteering initiatives. We have 7 candidates running for this role. They are Richard Sawyer, Peter Curtis, Alex Rose, Rachel Eckstein, Amy Sheffield, Eduardo Marshall and Rebecca Woodcock. Candidates will be spotlighted in that order, and they will give 2 minutes to introduce themselves, their manifestos, and answer the following 3 questions. As students begin to return to campus, what strategy would you suggest to help sports teams and societies recover from recent low engagement? How will you aim to strengthen relationships with the local community within your remit as Activities Officer? And how will you help make sports teams more inclusive to students of differing skill levels? So up first, we have Richard. Your time will begin once you unmute yourself and begin talking. Again, we'll hold this lovely sign up when you have 30 seconds remaining. So whenever you are ready.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, my name is Rich. As someone who's taken part in many societies and events over my 3 years here, I'm really looking forward to the chance to give back to this incredible uni and its students. I want to help all students be able to have the best experience for them, just like I've had for me. I was musical coach for Drama Society in my first year, which went on to win Best Production. This couldn't have happened without collaboration between students, and it's why I value the RUSU community so much. From all this, I've really learned that valuing the time as a student here is so important, enabling each student to thrive and grow. And RUSU groups can really help that to happen. So if I'm elected, I will campaign for RUSU to form our own athletics union as part of RUSU, giving specialised support, representation and opportunities to student groups. I'll offer training to students, groups in fundraising, events management and running societies in all circumstances, giving students the chance to thrive. I will also establish a week-long event calendar building off the RAGmeet model as an opportunity for societies to fundraise for causes they believe in and think are important to celebrate student innovation. So, addressing the questions. In terms of recent engagement, I found it very effective in societies and sports teams, asking members suggest to plan 1 or 2 events to make people engage with each other that are low commitment, have positive benefits for their group, but also they would personally take part in, making the society more of a platform for members to do things rather than solely rely on a traditional schedule or committee who understandably under the strain of lockdown may not have the motivation or resources. To strengthen relationships, I believe that the Reading Knights would benefit from a greater representation in their local community. In my home city of Bristol, I remember when I did basketball, the Bristol Flyers and University of Bristol came in, and that was really inspiring to me when I was younger. It's like University of Monsters. In terms of making sports teams more inclusive, this is something I deal with every day as dance sport captain. I find that inclusivity needs to happen at every level. So starting things like family schemes are really effective.
To cut you off there. Thank you so much for your answer. Next up, we have Peter. Peter, once you've been spotlighted, we'll begin the timer and you'll begin talking whenever you're ready.
Hi everyone, my name is Peter and I'm a final year geography student. As government restrictions are lifted, students will be keener than ever to socialise and get back into sports. This September will be a fantastic opportunity for smaller societies and sports teams to get the word out and grow even bigger than before. I will work hard to promote societies over the summer up to the Freshers' Fairs to maximise their visibility to both new and returning members of our student community. I'd like to see societies and sports clubs take part in more group volunteering and fundraising activities. It can be a lot of work for committee members to research and organise such events, which I believe is a barrier to greater participation. I'd like to provide a forum of opportunity to volunteer with local charities and community causes that takes away the daunting legwork for committees. Making a difference to your community is incredibly rewarding for your mental health and is an excellent group activity for societies and sports clubs. I'd like to allow sports teams to offer social memberships for students, which allows them to take part in more relaxed training sessions and social events, alongside full memberships, which would allow students to include additional training and competitive fixtures, with the opportunity for students to upgrade memberships should they wish to get more involved. I believe I have a manifesto full of real ideas that will make a real difference to our community. Most importantly, after this past year, I'll be focusing on students' mental well-being by providing regular mindfulness walks and enhancing RUSU's relationship with sport in mind to promote exercise that boosts mental health. Next, to make up for lost time these past 12 months, I'm proposing a university-wide alumni event next year that is a large sports celebration featuring matches and a union event. Thirdly, a revamped kit ordering process is desperately needed to replace the current difficult and expensive Mizuno order forms. Please check out my full manifesto for more detail and even more great ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Alex. Once you're spotlighted, Alex, we'll begin the timer once you begin talking. Ready when you are.
Hi everyone, my name is Alex Rose and I am running for the position of RUSU Activities Officer. So a few things on my manifesto are that I'm really dedicated to getting designated society space on campus. I think with 900 committee members and several thousand students being involved in student activities, I think it's crazy that we don't already have designated society space on campus for students to socialise and use their own space. I'm also keen to promote inclusion of postgraduate students, students who have children, and older students as well into society events, because I think they're really underutilised groups of students to getting involved with societies in general. In answering the questions, one of my manifesto points is about realistically mitigating the impacts of COVID and moving forward into the next year. So I think that ties in quite nicely with helping societies recover from the impacts of COVID in particular. I think we can do that in ways by promoting in-person events, using that new designated society space to get students to have meetings and overall improve membership as they kind of recover after the impacts of COVID and have as much support from RUSU as possible. In terms of community engagement, I think societies already interact with the community quite well in terms of engaging with local charities. The RAG group in particular does really well in kind of promoting those events. And I think it's just a case of getting students to kind of work in that capacity and, help towards that aspect. In regards to the sports in particular, I think in terms of, improving their inclusivity, in my time at Reading, I was part of the softball society and I found them very inclusive in terms of my engagement because my skill level when I first joined was very poor. So I think that in terms of that already exists, I think it's just a case of developing it more into the sport framework and that kind of training aspect. And you can find more information on my manifesto and ask me any questions online. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. Next up, we have Rachel. Again, you will have 2 minutes and once you're spotlighted, and we'll begin the timer once you start talking, whenever you're ready.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so hello, my name is Rachel Eckstein and I'm in my 3rd year studying philosophy and I've been heavily involved in the Hockey and Cricket Society while at university. COVID-19 has affected all students greatly and especially the student experience. Students this year have lost a significant part of what they expect when they come to university and I want to make sure that the parts we have all lost are put first next year. Firstly, I want to promote all societies during the summer. This is so future and current students are able to see what is on offer long before term starts. Secondly, I want to improve the relationship and communication between RUSU and societies by introducing a bigger platform for societies to voice their opinions on what they believe works well and what they want to improve. And lastly, I want to introduce 1 or more Get Active weeks to educate and encourage students about the positive impacts that any exercise can have on their mental health. And ideally, these weeks would be a chance for societies to raise money in collaboration with RAG. As one of my manifesto points says, I believe that promoting societies during summer on RUSU platforms will encourage students to see what's on offer when they return to campus. And this also means societies will be able to increase their engagement and they'll be able to reach more people as they wouldn't only be relying on their social media. I want to encourage students and societies to be more involved in the local community. Many societies do this already. For example, Corfball, Zero Waste and the Canoe Society have all been involved. But I'd like to encourage and push more societies to be involved, whether this is via charity fundraisers, joint sports ventures or volunteering in the community. I believe that if sports societies are able to expand their facilities to accommodate students of different skill levels than they should. However, I am very aware that not every society is able to do this, whether this is due to space, finance or time. Every student should have an equal opportunity to try out for teams. However, in some cases, if societies aren't able to expand themselves to cover every person's ability, then societies shouldn't be blamed for this. But do remember, It'll be Divine with Eckstein.
Thank you. Next up, we have Amy. So yeah, once you've been spotlighted, Amy, we'll start the timer when you begin talking. So whenever you're ready.
Hi everyone, I'm Amy Sheffield and I'm running for Activities Officer. During my time at university, I've been a part of 9 societies, 2 committees, and I've even set up my own society this year in the middle of a pandemic, which has nearly 100 members now. I work for RUSU and I have for a few years as an event rep in JCR, helping freshers to integrate into society. My first manifesto point is to keep everyone connected. I want to give more exposure to societies online and during the society fairs. And I'd like to create a better partnership of societies within each other that have similar interests. I want to have short and concise emails and also meetings that cater to different time zones for the international students and the different schedules of postgraduates and mature students. My second manifesto point is to campaign to improve the sports facilities, including a new outdoor gym and a new 3D pitch. My third manifesto point is to focus on the mental health and well-being of societies. I'd like to educate them more on the resources that are available for them for support and provide better mental health training for the committees. I'd also like to provide an online chat service that people can contact me directly rather than emailing me for help. To help sports teams and societies recover from low engagement, I think this is something that I'm very experienced in myself as running my own society in the middle of a pandemic, and I'd love to run workshops on the methods that I used this year to help attract members and how to advertise themselves online. I'd like to survey freshers before they come to uni on what hobbies and interests they currently have so that we can match them with societies that already exist at the university. To strengthen relationships with the local community, I'd like to push the better facilities for sports for the local schools and clubs and increase our partnerships. To make sports teams more inclusive of different skill levels, I'd like to encourage clubs to have both competitive and non-competitive teams and provide better sport for pre-season training for those who have no previous experience. So that should be 2 minutes, and I'd like to ask you to vote Amy for activities. Thank you.
Exactly 2 minutes. Thank you. Next up, we have Eduardo. Again, once you've been spotlighted, Eduardo, we'll start the timer once you begin talking, whenever you're ready.
Everyone hear me all right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Hi, I'm Eduardo Marshall and I'm running for Activities Officer. I'm a 3rd year Politics and International Relations student and I feel like I could bring a lot to the Activities Officer role. Firstly, I'm friendly, reliable and hands-on, 3 key attributes which I think every Activities Officer should have. Also, I've got experience in and managing society, so I know how to experience them properly. Also, I'm men's captain of the boat club, and I feel like this has given me a lot of experience relevant to the role. Moving on to my manifesto. First point, I want to support societies after COVID, especially with Boris's announcement today. It's going to be really important. So I want to have regular meetings with committees in order to how I can best help them. I want to have inter-society engagement. My second policy point is I want to improve accessibilities for all members of societies. I want to do this by having more support through an improved buddy scheme, which will include current members as well. And I also want to add disability training to the welfare officer training we have already. Policy 3, I want to maximise visibility for smaller societies. One way I want to do this is have an online community, including social media platforms on which they can publicise. So in terms of the questions, first question, as I said, I want to have regular meetings with the society committees. I want to have the online community, but I also want to really push the Freshers' Fair well in advance. Even in August, I want to be publicising that so everyone's fully aware of it when they come back. Secondly, I want to advertise the University of Reading fixtures and events we're running to introduce ourselves into the local community. And I also want to organise events with clubs in the local community. For example, Chess is doing this already, and I think they're doing a great job, but I'd like to see this done across all societies. And thirdly, when it comes to different skill levels, I want to encourage sports teams to cater to everyone, have different levels for different like willingness to engage.
I'm so sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off there.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, and finally we have Rebecca. So again, once you've been spotlighted, I'll start the timer when you begin talking. So whenever you're ready.
Is it all good?
Yep.
Hi, my name's Rebecca Woodcock and I'm an MSc student in my 4th year here. I've been involved in several societies while at Reading and I'm currently committee of 2 of those while also being a student voice member. My reasons for running for activities officer are based on the practical achievements I want to help societies, sports clubs and volunteering groups attain, taking the form of my 3 main goals. The first is to involve activities groups in introduction events where group crossover activities would enable people in different social circles to meet each other, bridging some of the gaps that can develop in the online setting between groups of people with different interests. The second is aimed more at students who might struggle to attend in-person events. I would help and encourage activities groups to maintain your online presence once in-person activities restart, letting students who aren't as able to attend because of, say, their year or term abroad still take part. The question of how I would help sports teams and societies recover their engagement levels is actually addressed by my 3rd manifesto point. I would split activity group taster sessions over a longer time period to allow students to attend more events whilst also linking them in with the introduction events. I would also work with committees to figure out the specific needs of each activity group and enable them to achieve their goals, their individual goals. For strengthening community relationships, I would encourage activity groups to take part in volunteering activities. This is not only valuable for achievements like the Red Award, but by working with groups to participate in community activity, they will actually get to know Reading better. As to how I will help sports teams be more inclusive to students with different skill levels, first off, I would find out from students what they find makes them hesitate with joining sports teams through surveys, whether they feel like they may not be skilled enough or they may have a disability that they think affects it or something else. For example, this would then potentially lead on to scenarios like encouraging the sports teams to liaise with the disability officer or to see if there's anything they can do to facilitate accessibility
I'm so
for
sorry,
students
Rebecca,
of different
I'm going to have to cut you off there. Thank you. So that is all the candidates in the activities role. I will hand over to George.
Well done for all your answers so far. Really good effort to everyone. But yeah, for the final time tonight, I will now read you a set of 3 new questions. As you know, you'll have 1 minute to answer them. Candidates, your questions are as follows. What ideas do you have to increase engagement with RUSU's media streams? How will you support RAG in achieving its fundraising goals? What ideas do you have to get a wider group of students more involved in volunteering? So once again, these 3 questions are, what ideas do you have to increase engagement with RUSU's media streams? How will you support RAG in achieving its fundraising goals? What ideas do you have to get a wider group of students more involved in volunteering? As it's in reverse order, first up, we have Rebecca. Remember, you'll have a minute to answer and I'll start the timer once you've been spotlighted and begin talking. You've been spotlighted now, so when you're ready.
For engaging with RUSU media streams, I would include that as a section in part of the committee training for new committee members, which would bring it not only to their attention more than it has been previously, but would give them methods with which to engage with that further. Supporting RAG in achieving fundraising goals, I would liaise with people that have worked on this previously. I don't have much experience in this myself, but I would get advice from people that have worked in that before in order to then make plans for going forward. Increasing student volunteering, that would be probably working with volunteering groups that already exist and emphasising the uses of volunteering experience for students, both for their personal self-esteem and confidence and experience, and also
I'm going to have to cut you off there, I'm sorry. But really excellent answers tonight, Rebecca, thank you. We'll now move on to the next candidate, which is Eduardo. Once you've been spotlighted, Eduardo, we'll start the time once we begin talking. You've been spotlighted, so when you're ready.
Hi again. So, number 1 for ideas with to engage with media. So, number 1, I want to use hashtags as much as possible, get them repeated. I also want to use the specific activity streams, which I've already mentioned in my manifesto with the online community. And thirdly, I want to advertise them on pre-existing platforms which we already have. Secondly, in terms of RAG, I want to aid them in any way possible. I feel like they are the experts and I should be at their whim, trying to aid and whatever I can do to help. Thirdly, in terms of student volunteering, again, RAG's going to come straight back into this, but also I feel like there's a lot of different opportunities available, which again need to be publicised and advertised. I feel like students would engage more if there was more publicity. Thank you very much. I hope you vote for me.
Awesome. Thanks, Eduardo. We'll now move on to the next candidate, which will be Amy. Amy, once you've been spotlighted, we'll start the timer when you begin talking. You've been spotlighted, so when you're ready.
Hi, so to increase engagement and the ideas I have, I've already touched on this a little bit. I think workshops would be really helpful. I set up my own society this year, all on my own, and I think that that information should be out there on how to do that, supporting societies on doing that, and yeah, workshops. To improve RAG raising, what was that question, sorry?
The question was, apologies, how will you support RAG in achieving its fundraising goals?
Okay, I'd like to focus on specifically mental health awareness during these events as well, because I think that that's a very popular cause that people will gravitate towards. I'd like some of the merchandise in the RUSU shop to also donate money to RAG, create sponsorships and partnerships with societies. To get students involved in volunteering, I'd like to show it more on the social media and show that it can be fun and rewarding and work with the local community as well. So especially online campaigning for a lot of those things, I think.
And I'm gonna have to cut you off there. Really excellent answers. Thanks, Amy. Moving on to Rachel. Once you've been spotlighted, Rachel, we'll start the timer once you begin talking. And you have been spotlighted, so when you're ready.
So with the media engagement, I think if people don't know, then people can't find it. So being able to promote the RUSU sites more, even just having one person dedicated to just follow people for an hour. If people can't find it, then people won't know. With the fundraising and with RAG, obviously we have Movember, which is amazing. We raised 17 grand this year, and I'd potentially like to introduce a ladies version of that, and we could support a charity like Refuge. And potentially we could look, societies do a lot of tours, we could look to fundraising, obviously if they go away, fundraising big trips like that. And with wider volunteering on campus, similar to what I said before, the Get Active, we could encourage people, you know, a society could encourage some of their members to go out and help clean campus and volunteer that way. And even just volunteer in the local communities, find people that need help, and we can encourage societies to go and help them that way. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Rachel. Excellent answers as well. Moving on to Alex. Alex, once you've been spotlighted, we'll start the timer once you begin talking. You've now been spotlighted, so when you're ready.
Thank you. I think we can all agree that the RUSU virtual media streams need updating, especially for student activities in several areas. I think there needs to be an update on several of the different social media streams so that societies are better able to engage both with RUSU as a whole and with other societies, and that there's more intercooperation between the societies and discussion in that particular topics. I think questions 2 and 3 in particular relate quite closely together, because the Raising and Giving Society, RAG, works very closely with volunteering and promoting that to societies. So I think there needs to be a more effective role of RAG in RUSU in terms of promoting those opportunities to societies. There's lots of voluntary organisations and charities in Reading that could be very easily approached as well and join in with this kind of volunteering process. And I think as well that would work better towards community engagement with societies as well. Thank you.
Excellent, Alex. Concise as always. Moving on to Peter. Once you've been spotlighted, Peter, we'll start the timer once you begin talking. You've now been spotlighted, so when you're ready.
Thank you. I'd like to make a greater emphasis through the Knights accreditation scheme to get sports teams and societies to provide content for the student media streams. For example, whilst on the corporal committee last year, we actually submitted a couple of different articles to the Spark that ended up being published in the newspaper, which was an excellent activity for our committee and great for the Spark to provide them content as well. With regards to the other two questions, I've already mentioned my proposed forum of opportunities to get groups more involved with volunteering and fundraising, and RAG would play a large role in this, benefiting from increased student engagement, especially with groups getting involved through their societies and sports clubs. There's an organisation called Reading Voluntary Action that also provide a great source of volunteering opportunities in Reading and the surrounding area, so it would be a goal of mine to feature them in this opportunity forum. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Peter. Moving on to the next activities candidate. Last but not least, we've got Richard. Once you've been spotlighted, Richard, we'll start the timer once you begin talking. You've now been spotlighted. When you're ready.
Okay, so part of my manifesto is every student, I believe, should value their time at Reading. I believe that every student should value their time and feel part of a positive, nurturing community. Now, I'm saying this because I believe that the best way to increase engagement in media is putting on things that people believe in. So, for example, when I did Strictly Come Reading last year, I put on a show that I cared for, people cared for, and I had societies come in. I had rugby, I had trampolining, I had dance, I had drama, and we raised nearly £1,000 and we won Broadcast of the Year. I think it was celebrated and that the collaboration really made people value their time here. So supporting RAG, again, this is part of my manifesto. This gets students and societies to create their own initiatives and use RUSU as a learning platform to enable societies and RAG to innovate new ideas with my full support if I get to be officer. Again, with volunteering, if they have their own initiatives, if they value their time in Reading, I think that RUSU could nurture these people into doing some really great things. So thank you, Rich for RUSU.
Perfect. Thanks, Rich. And that concludes all our activities candidates.